If you struggle with anxiety, you cannot miss this video. Today, I'm going to talk about the real issue when it comes to anxiety, the thing that you need to know in order to really start to let go of the control that anxiety has in your life. Hey there, if you're new around here, my name is Diana Garcia. I'm a licensed therapist in Florida and owner of a private practice called Nurturing Minds Counseling. Hit that subscribe button now to get more tips to improve your relationship with anxiety, mental health, relationships, things like that. This is part of my Decoding Anxiety playlist. You can check it out here. I've been doing different videos to help you understand anxiety, basic understanding, psychoeducation of anxiety, things that I tell my clients in order to help them understand what they need to do differently in order to stop letting anxiety control their lives. Okay, so let's jump into this week's video. If you missed the last video I did, go check it out here because in that video, I went through an exercise that's helpful to understand this concept that I'm going to talk about today. Either way, at the end of that video, you had a timeline, right? And that timeline had some red markings for different instances in your life that you struggle with anxiety and black markings for all the different strategies that you've done to get rid of it. So if we think about like just the red markings first, like anxiety and how common it is, I was just looking up stats and the World Health Organization says that in 2019, anxiety was the most common mental health disorder. Anxiety disorders was the most common mental health disorder in the world. And that's 2019 pre-pandemic. So I'm going to guess that that's probably gone up, or at least it went up for a period of time. The reason I say this is that if you had a lot of red marks on that timeline, you're in good company. You're not alone, because the truth is, to be human is to suffer at times. And I know that sounds morbid and I wish there was a better kind of mantra or outcome, but that's the truth, that if you are human and if you live long enough, that at some point you will deal with some type of pain, whether that's grief, whether that's trauma, whether that's depression, whether that's anxiety, right? That's just part of the human condition. To suffer is to be human at some point in your life. Now, the thing that when it comes to that is that we have a lot of notions about that. One, our culture usually says that, suffering or having some type of internal distress is not normal, nor should you have it. Two, our mind says that that's a problem that needs to be solved, something that we need to get rid of. And three, you buy into, like, if you haven't gotten rid of it, that you are just haven't found the right strategy, right? You just have to keep finding what other black mark, whatever else you need to do to get rid of it, because everyone else seems to have it figured out. So once we understand that our mind treats anxiety and everything that it entails, the thoughts, the physical sensations, the feeling, any memories that might be associated with it, as all of these problems that need to be solved, right? And that we need to figure out what the solution is. Now, from an evolutionary perspective, right, that problem solution has been very helpful for our species when it comes to the outside world. What do I mean by the outside world? I mean like outside problems, right? If there wasn't enough food in a certain part of the world, like, okay, I guess we need to keep moving and find where we can hunt, right? Problem solution. If my child was sick and they have a cold, I guess I need to go to the doctor. Problem solution, right? Our problem solving mind is constantly doing this problem solution. And this formula works really well when it comes to the outside world. I mean, if I just think of a simple example here, like if my screen was smudged, right? All I have to do is clean it. Problem solution, right? Very simple. You could probably think about even today, countless problems that you've solved that maybe you haven't even realized it, right? You're cold, bring a jacket. It's going to rain, bring an umbrella. Your car's out of oil, you have to schedule an oil change. Whatever the thing is, right? Your mind is constantly doing this problem solution. But this problem solution, when we apply it to the internal experience, thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, physical sensations, it doesn't work the same way. It doesn't have the same level of effect that it has in the outside world. If you don't believe me, just kind of think about it. I'm going to give you some different kind of things to think about and you just figure out for yourself. Okay, so if I said to you, you could have $1 million. The only thing you have to do is you have to agree to sing the national anthem at the next Super Bowl, or if you're international, to perform at the next World Cup event, right, in front of millions of people. So not only do you have to guarantee to do that, which I know might feel scary enough to get the tax-free $1 million, you also have to guarantee me that you're not going to have any fluctuations in anxiety. What I know that is you'd be connected to the most sensitive machine that could pick up any changes in any physical sensations, right? So if your heartbeat goes up, if you start to sweat, anything that would indicate to me that you might be experiencing anxiety. Could you guarantee that you could do that to get $1 million? I know I couldn't. I mean, I get anxious doing these videos, so I know there's no way I could do that and not get anxious. So again, if we think about it, it's like we actually don't have that level of control. Now, but it doesn't just apply to uncomfortable feelings, right, or scary situations. If I were to say to you, okay, the next unknown person that you meet, like the next new person, next stranger that you meet, you don't know who that is, right? It could be the barista, it could be someone walking down your street, it could be a classmate, a coworker, whatever the case is, the next new person that you meet. Could you guarantee me that you could fall madly in love with them? Kind of like Romeo and Juliet stuff. Could you guarantee without a doubt that you could do that? Not knowing anything about this person. I know this sounds a little bit like Love is Blind, but it's not that. It's just, could you guarantee that whoever it is, that you could fall madly in love with them? Again, I couldn't say that 100% that I could. So realizing that, wow, maybe we actually don't have as much control when it comes to our emotions. But it doesn't just apply to our emotions. Okay, if we think of thoughts like, I want you just very quickly to see, if I said to you, okay, for the next 30 seconds, I want you to do your absolute hardest not to think of a warm, ooey gooey chocolate chip cookies where like, look, chocolate chips are literally like melting and you can smell them and you can even see some of the sugar flakes on the cookie. I want you as hard as possible not to think or picture a chocolate chip cookie. Could you do that? And pause the video now for like 20 to 30 seconds and see. Okay, what happened? Like, were you able seriously not to think of that chocolate chip cookie? I know, again, that's the first thing I'm thinking about. And again, if you didn't think about it, how did you know you weren't thinking about it? Like, did you have a thought like, well, I'm not thinking of a chocolate chip cookie, so I guess I did this right. Well, but even referencing that makes you think of a chocolate chip cookie, right? So again, realizing that that level of control when it comes to thoughts don't really work the same way. Again, you can think about if I said to you, okay, could you just remove a memory from your head, right? Maybe it's a pleasant memory. Could you, without having like a concussion or injury, anything like that, could you like consciously go in there and get rid of this memory, this pleasant memory that you like, as you cherish? Could you do that? Now let's think about when it comes to our physical sensations, because physical sensations, uncomfortable physical sensations, are so common when it comes to anxiety. But think about it. Could you, on cue, make your left leg go numb? Just on cue, could you make that happen? Probably not. Or, okay, let's say, could you, again, stop the video and do, I don't know, 30 jumping jacks, but guarantee that your heart rate isn't going to go up? Could you do that? I couldn't. It's just not possible. Hopefully you're getting kind of the point here that it's actually hard and like really difficult to control our internal experiences. Even if our mind tries to convince us that we should have more control over what shows up internally. So once we understand that, right, that's the formula your mind keeps applying, but it doesn't work, then we can start to understand that maybe we're playing a rigged game here and we need to do something different. And I want you to think about this concept of willingness. It's really, are you willing to have these uncomfortable experiences when it really matters, right? Because I want you to get to the end of your life and look back at your life and say, wow, even if there was a lot of red marks on my life, I still did all these things that were important and meaningful to me, right? I didn't get so bogged or caught up in having to do more things not to have it. And so this is the thing, this concept of willingness, it's not a one and done thing. It's really an approach, an ongoing process in the way you look at your anxiety. And again, at times you might not be willing. Maybe there's certain instances where you're not yet willing. And that's okay. It could be a process. But I would just want you to start to have this concept of like, are you willing to be open with this internal experience in the service of your life, moving towards the life that you want to have? So now that you're starting to have this concept of willingness in your mind, I want you to really start to log your anxiety, right? So in a couple of videos ago, I had you kind of do that cycle of anxiety, of avoidance, and I had you to start think about like, what are the triggers to your anxiety? What are the thoughts, the sensations, things like that? And I want you to do more of like a formal, like for the next week or 2 weeks, I want you to start to log these moments of anxiety when your anxiety escalates. And on this log, I want you to include like, okay, like what brought it on? Like, what was the trigger? So like kind of generally describe. Sometimes it's really identifiable, sometimes it's not. So just describe when you noticed it coming on. I want you to describe like what showed up for you. So like kind of full body, like what was showing up in your mind? What were the thoughts that showed up? Did they escalate? Did they change when you started to notice the anxiety? What were the physical sensations that showed up, right? So in a couple of videos ago, I talked about the fight or flight response, and any of those start to show up. What you did in that moment. So what were your behaviors when you noticed this? Did you try to run away? Did you avoid something? And I also want you to think about the impact to your life, the cost based on what you did, right? So if you said no to some dinner plans, what was the cost? You missed out on a moment of being with your friends. I also want you to rate like your anxiety from 0 to 10, 10 being is very, very escalated. So, and you can write any other notes, right? Anything else that stands out from this experience. Ultimately, I want you to start to get very familiar with your anxiety and these different things that bring it on. I mentioned before that you watch till the end of this Decoding Anxiety video series playlist that I might have a workbook that goes with all these different activities or exercises or questions. Let me know, comment workbook to let me know if it's even worth my time or energy to put this together. Again, comment workbook to let me know that would be something that would be helpful for you guys. And as always, I encourage you to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you. Thanks.